Hola, usted está escuchando el Collins-Ashworth Foundation podcast.
Hello, my name is Ron Collins from the Collins-Ashworth Foundation. We're here tonight with a couple guests that really are friends with the foundation. Charles here, been a homeless advocate for about 20 years or so, and we brought him in tonight to tell us a lot about what he's known and learned over these years. Nancy's big political guru. She's going to try to tie into what Charles says into how it's affecting our politics, or maybe it's whatever. And I'd like to start by saying welcome aboard. Glad to have you. And I'd like to introduce, first of all, Charles. Charles, tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, I reside here in the Clark County area. I've been living here since April 1st of 96. I consider now this as being my home. I've lived in Yuma, Arizona, Las Vegas, Washington, D.C., but now I'm here in Vancouver, Washington, and we're gonna see us together what we can do to make a dent in the homeless problem here in Clark County.
When did you start your advocacy?
About 20 years ago.
And where was that at?
It was here in Vancouver. But other places that I've been, I helped the homeless out. Either buying food, taking them to to the hospital or a appointment. Doctor's appointment, whatever I can do to give back to society.
Hey, Nancy, you follow the politics on many items and issues these days, and there seems to be a whole bunch of them. What's the word out there on Main Street, political world, about homelessness? Are they all bums? Are they all drug addicts?
Oh, God. No. And I was just thinking about the government being closed for such a long time, and the federal workers are, of course, empathy for them, of course, but kind of, they were turning around because this shutdown had happened for such a long time to asking for handouts. I don't know how else to put it. Like the homeless, and everybody the American people have seemed to be willing to pour their hearts out to the federal workers. Well, what about the homeless people that have always been in need?
That's interesting. Charles, I heard you had talking in the break room, and you were explaining to Nancy actually exactly some of the things that you believe are causes of homelessness, and some of the things. Will you share that with us?
Well, a lot of it, it's like I said, it's a 4-point problem. Some of it's drug addiction, alcoholism, opioid addiction. Some of it's mental health, okay? And then some of it's also a victim of circumstance. They were drawing a disability check. All of a sudden, a new owner comes and buys an apartment. They raised the rent $200, and he fell into a victim of circumstance. Him or her, they can't pay rent. Now they're living in their vehicle, nor can they get enough money saved up to get back into an apartment. Our housing market is going sky high. We have people coming from other states that can pay the rent that's high, but the ones that live here now, we're being left in the shadows. So we're trying to, the fourth point is to try to get a little bit of a rent help and rent control, but the state of Washington has not stepped up, and they allow a new owner of a building, there's no cap on what they can raise the rent to.
Well, some of the big capitalists out there are arguing these days that they don't want anybody to tell them how much they can afford, or I'm sorry, let's rephrase this, how much they can charge for their rent. If they can get it, what's wrong with getting it and what's wrong with charging it? It's not their problem. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not their problem. It should be some of everybody's problem. That could have been your neighbor that you're looking at, or another person that you see that maybe has kids, and they could have had a divorce or something, and all of a sudden they're in a situation where they have no place to stay. We're not funding shelters, and most of the homeless you see are 90% men. And nobody cares about a man that gets homeless and loses everything he had that was a productive member of society.
It's time for a break, and when we come right back, Charles is going to tell us a little bit more in detail exactly some thoughts of his.
That sounds really
Okay,
great.
time to take a break.
Hello, welcome back to Collins-Ashworth Foundation's podcast for the evening of whatever it is tonight. Nancy stepped out for a second. She'll be back here in the next segment. I want to get down into the weeds. I want to find out what's going on. Many of us live in this world. We go by these folks every day, and I call them these folks, the homeless folks. I don't even like that term. I've been trying to call them something different, like our friends without homes, because it seems a little bit more empathetic, you know, and that's what I'm trying to say. I mess up. I'm human, but I try, and I encourage you folks to do the same out there in the TV world. Charles, now we talked earlier about there are some drug problems, mental problems, veteran problems, education problems. We just got a lot of problems out there. So, what's the very first step? What do we do first?
Is upgrading our educational system. Our educational system is ranked 38th in the world, but we say that we are the greatest country in the world. The greatest country in the world should not have the most homeless people per capita in the world. The greatest country in the world should not also have the best. We are a military industrialized complex. If a person listens to President Eisenhower's last State of the Union, he said that's his greatest fear for this country. And it's just like a skit. We followed it to the pattern, and he told us that we're going to be spending more on military than 10 countries combined, and it's all coming to fruition.
You know, there's a big advantage of being older. I'm 50-something, 56, and there's a bigger advantage other than just being in pain all the time from just sitting up and sitting down. You get to watch history develop before your eyes. You watch it happen, and then you get to watch it being told differently, totally differently than what you remember it being. We were talking about Eisenhower, and that's what it reminded me of. I remember when public school system was a pretty good gig. If you wanted to learn, there was classes there for you to learn. There was teachers there for you to teach. There was room for you to sit to learn. Here we are in the 21st century, and we have the internet. We're still doing things they did way back in the Greeks' day by going to physical places and having someone try to teach 50 people at a time these days. It ain't happening. All we're doing is wasting our money. I think we need to improve on technology and use some of the things that are available. I'm not sure how we would use them, and those are for people with bigger brains than myself. But you bring up the evidence in itself. Take the 50s. Go ahead. Take the 50s and compare it to the education system what we have now, how we treat our veterans.
Well,
compare it to even just the homeless sessions. They had homeless back then, but not near as much. There was a few folks, not near like whole communities now on a given town.
First thing to do, we need to pay our teachers more money. You know, we had a strike here in Clark County for the beginning of the year, and they only got a negotiation. They wanted 22%. These teachers haven't had a raise in 10 years. And when you're not getting paid properly, you cannot teach properly. And we need to step back and say, wait a minute, if we're paying a prison guard 3 times more than we're paying a teacher, let's educate ourselves and let's pay these teachers right money. They need at least, this is my opinion, a teacher needs at least $40,000 minimum. That should be the lowest a teacher should be paid.
That's just to cover the bills and,
right,
and throw a couple bucks every payday in a savings account for the emergency.
But here's the thing, and I didn't know this, but the teachers said that they have to buy a lot of their own materials, and then they're not being paid when they take homework home to assign to grade the papers or get on the computer and grade someone. So here we go that person's working about 8 hours more a week than they should, but when they pencil it out, that person's only making about $30,000 a year. And now they're still paying for the school that they went to, and now that person will be in debt for the next 20 years or 30 that's teaching our children. And that should not happen in this society.
So we have the biggest economy that's ever been known to mankind, yet where is it? Where's all that cash at that we were supposed to
Well,
see? Where's it at? Who has it? Why aren't they spending it?
well, first of all, the military budget is the biggest in the entire world.
I understand it's not only the biggest, it's big enough for the next 10 countries that are below us, and then some.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, the military-industrial complex is real. First of all, we used to have the boogeyman. The Russians used to be the nuclear arms race, and now we sell fear. We don't have to sell weapons no more. We just sell. I'm scared of Syria. I'm scared of this country, and then fear sells, and then the people that Northrop or McDonnell Douglas, they make billions of dollars making weapons that we don't really need.
And I think the evidence is pretty apparent these days just by watching what's going on for the last few years. And not just Republicans and Trump. I'm talking, it's been going on for a while. This wasn't broken overnight. And when we get back, we're going to talk we're going to talk about that with Nancy as soon as she gets back. We'll be right back soon. Welcome back. It's been a really exciting conversation tonight, and I'd like to remind us it's okay to talk about things that are upsetting. It's the only way we're going to fix it. Charles, you have some ideas on what you would like to see happen and how you could do your part to help solve these problems. What are they?
Okay, well, to start off, we have some hot dog carts that we'd like to get licensed in the Clark County area of Vancouver, Washington. And with those carts going, we can employ people that are down on their luck, and maybe the ones that are in their cars, and they could have extra money to maybe get in the place that they want to get to. So we're going to be asking for donations, a small donation that'll be tax deductible, and then what we want to do is get this thing, we want a solution to some of these problems. And I think we can turn some of the people on the streets into entrepreneurs, and it would really help start.
I agree with that. I think, Charles, you have many solutions. You have some to start, especially with your cart. Tell us more about your cart.
Well, I set up downtown Vancouver on Main Street, and then sometimes we'll sell dinners. We have a licensed kitchen at 5601 18th Street across from Fort Vancouver High School.
Yes.
So, we want to get everybody, get your food handler's card, have the carts legally licensed. I have insurance. I have a $2 million insurance policy, for the food business. So those bases are, actually covered. And once we get the nonprofit called Men of Honor going, we can employ some of the people and give them a good fresh start back to life again. So what I'd like to do is maybe we can do a pillow, blanket, and coat drive to different, we're asking the churches and different denominations that are nonprofit to come on board with this. It's not about big I and little U, it's about everybody helping neighbors.
So the people who are watching this tonight, and they just heard all that, and they want to help you, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, my phone number is, I can give them my Gmail address. It's charlesbanks917@gmail.com. They can text me or email me with that address, or my phone number is 360-207-9209. And you can contact me, and we can take donations. We can go from there.
Not many people know this, Nancy, but she is my grants writer, and kind of she goes out and begs for me for money. And I appreciate it, let me tell you.
In the legal way.
I'm not very good at it, though. I need more money, so what's all that about? What are you going to do about that, Nancy?
Well, once I figure out the specific grants for homelessness that we can apply for, that's going to bring in some money to help specifically your cheap shop and Charles Cart and many other programs that we've been thinking about and brainstorming about. So that is going to happen.
Well, I'd like to thank you for that, and thank you very much. And you know, I'm going to wrap this up here, and I'd like to first thank all the volunteers that helped me out. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
And
you have some-
the person who comes for an hour, one time only, or the person who comes every week for 15 hours a week. I couldn't do it, and what I'm trying to accomplish here is this. I have a little spot on Evergreen called Cheap Shops. 2205 East Avenue, or no, East Evergreen Boulevard. Cross Streets, Evergreen Boulevard, and V. It's not about me, it's about community. And what I try to tell my volunteers is, I want you to feel like this is your place, because it is your place. You're the ones who's going to make the difference. My 30,000 foot view would look something like this in a little while. I'm not sure when. We got enough money to go buy dilapidated properties and enough to fix them up. A percentage would be for immediate housing for those who need it. Another percentage would be for affordable housing for those who need it, and for they will stay out of the immediate area. There would be a little security, because the fact is, you need security in a place like that. And I mean security guards type of deal. But we can only do that with your help. And that kind of help, believe it or not, is volunteerism. But it's also cash. Lots of cash. Unless you want to donate your building. I never even thought about asking that. But I'll take your apartment building also. That would be good too.
Yes.
I'd like to thank everybody, and I need to give some thanks around here. Arturo, Colorado, Ariana Allison, and Trinity Allison. They were doing all the work behind the cameras that you don't see, but they put all the good product together. Nancy Miller, Charles Banks, and myself, Ronald Collins from Collins-Ashworth and Foundation. I want you to think what you can do to help. And the fact is, we do need your help. So thank you. God bless and good night.